Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. If you're right around 10 years old and trying to figure out the sometimes wild world of school, recess, or church, you are in the exact right place. Today, we're throwing on our superhero capes, but instead of learning how to fly or, lift heavy cars, we're looking at something way more practical. We are building a superhero toolbelt made of 3 incredible biblical powers to help you handle some really tough social situations. Think of this as your ultimate training manual for how to properly use your words. Because let me tell you, when you master these tools, you're going to be able to completely change the atmosphere around you.
Okay, let's dive into this. Picture this scenario. You're just hanging out at recess, or maybe you're waiting in the hallway between classes, and a friend comes sprinting up to you. Their eyes are wide, they're completely out of breath, and they say, "You will never believe what I just heard about so-and-so." It's a juicy secret. It's a tempting rumor. It's just hovering right there in the air, basically begging you to lean in, listen closely, and then pass it along to the very next person you see. We've all been there, right? The urge to listen to that secret is incredibly strong. It feels almost impossible to just walk away.
But here's the thing we absolutely have to remember. Our words are incredibly powerful tools. They act exactly like water. Now think about water for a second. When you're super thirsty after running around in the hot sun playing basketball or tag, a tall, ice-cold glass of water is incredibly refreshing. It literally gives life to your tired body. But if water gets completely out of control, like if a pipe bursts or a river overflows, it causes a massive destructive flood. Well, the wrong words, like rumors or mean comments, act exactly like that flood. They wash away trust, they totally ruin friendships, and they unleash a whole lot of trouble that is really, really hard to clean up.
Which brings us right to power number 1 in our superhero tool belt, the gossip flood. This is your essential shield against mean words.
To use this shield, I want you to imagine yourself standing in front of a giant dam that's about to burst, and you have to hold up a massive, heavy barrier to completely stop this destructive rush of mean rumors. That shield, that's your own reaction. This idea actually comes from some ancient wisdom found in Proverbs 17:9. It says, "He that covereth a transgression seeketh love, but he that repeateth a matter separateth very friends." Let's break that down real quick, because it's brilliant. A transgression is kind of just a fancy ancient word for a mistake or a fault. If we repeat someone's mistake over and over by gossiping about it, it ruins friendships. It literally separates close friends. But covering mistakes with love, that protects those friendships and keeps the flood from ruining the whole shebang.
So practically speaking, how do we actually hold up that shield? When someone rushes up to you blabbering 100 miles an hour about who did what and who said this, and the gossip is just rushing at you like a chaotic, overwhelming wave, stop. Take a deep breath. It's time for the 1-2-3 Bible rule intervention. Step 1, refuse to listen. Just turn a completely deaf ear to it. Step 2, calmly ask the person, "Hey, have you spoken about this to the person involved?" And step 3, tell them they need to go first to that person and talk about the fault privately and in love. The absolutely crucial point here is you force the gossiper to handle things directly and kindly. Boom, you just close the floodgates.
Let's move to power number 2 and see how this builds. The superpower of silence. Here is what to do when spoken to harshly.
Imagine you're under attack. Someone is unfairly criticizing you, or maybe they're criticizing one of God's kids right in front of you, and you feel that hot, angry temptation bubbling up in your chest to just yell right back at them. It really feels like a spiritual battle, doesn't it? I mean, your first, most natural instinct is to strike back with an even meaner word to defend yourself. But our source text tells us that when you're tempted to speak unadvisedly like that, you got to be heavily on guard. You have to mentally picture slamming the door on the tempter, refuse to listen to the unfair criticism, and absolutely refuse to speak an unadvised, angry word back.
Now think about the word eloquence. Normally, eloquence means speaking very powerfully, beautifully, and effectively. Right? If someone stands up on a stage and gives this great, inspiring speech that moves the whole crowd to tears, we say they're eloquent. But here is the dramatic twist for our superhero tool belt. When you are provoked and someone is actively trying to pick a fight with you, silence is eloquence. Sometimes the absolutely most powerful, brilliant, and effective thing you can possibly say when someone is being mean to you is nothing at all.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the dramatic difference between your 2 options. When you retaliate, which just means fighting back and throwing insult in return, you're just adding fuel to the fire. It makes the other person's irritated temper so much worse, and suddenly you're both stuck in this massive, ugly argument. But staying silent, the source material tells us that uttering not a single word acts as the greatest rebuke you can possibly give a fault finder. A rebuke is like a firm, undeniable correction. Your complete, peaceful silence acts like a giant bucket of ice-cold water poured right on top of their angry fire. It completely fizzles the argument out.
Okay, now it's time to go on the offensive. Power number 3, planting seeds of kindness. This is how you start growing a beautiful garden with your words. Instead of making the pathway of other weary travelers harder by magnifying their mistakes or constantly sitting in judgment of what they wear, what they do, we have a mission to speak amazing positive things. When you're talking with your friends, speak about the wonderful love of Jesus. Speak words of comfort to cheer up that kid sitting all alone at lunch. Speak hope for the friend who maybe failed a test and feels super discouraged, and lend courage to someone who's just plain weary from a tough week. You have the actual power to completely turn someone's terrible day into a great one, just by carefully choosing which words you bring into the conversation.
The source text gives us a really deep, profound reason for why we should treat each other this way. It tells us to rejoice in his intercession. Now, I know that's a pretty heavy biblical concept, but let's translate it. Intercession simply means Jesus is actively standing up for us. He's constantly cheering for us and working to save lost humanity. It means every single person you see in the hallway, at the lunch table, or out on the playground is incredibly valuable. They're a precious treasure because they are the purchase of Christ's blood. When you truly realize how much Jesus loves your friends, yes, even the ones who kind of annoy you, you'll naturally only want to use words that build them up.
And this brilliantly illustrates the most amazing truth of our entire explainer. Kind words are never lost. Jesus records them as if spoken to himself. Just think about that for a second. Every single nice word you say to a friend, every time you offer a word of comfort, and every time you bravely stand up against a flood of gossip, those words don't just disappear into thin air. They aren't forgotten. Jesus actually records them as a personal gift given directly to him. That is exactly how monumental and powerful your daily words actually are.
So our ultimate aim every single day should be to bring all the pleasantness and kindness possible into the lives of those around us. Your kind words act like powerful, tiny little seeds. When you sow the seeds of kindness, love, and tenderness in your classroom or out in your neighborhood, they don't just stay buried in the dirt. The text promises us that they will eventually blossom and they will bear fruit. You are literally going to grow a beautiful, thriving garden of strong friendships simply by how you choose to speak.
Well, superheroes, you now have your tool belt completely equipped. You know exactly how to stop the destructive gossip flood by refusing to listen and forcing friends to handle things privately in love. You know the incredible superpower of silence when you're spoken to harshly, acting as ice-cold water on a hot fire. And you know how to plant amazing seeds of kindness that Jesus himself records as a personal gift. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final question to think about. The very next time you open your mouth, what kind of seeds will your words plant today?